Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got a little more news cover-ups or news misconstruing animal attacks to confuse the public, and a couple of possible Dogman encounters from New Jersey. Before we get into this, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now, I've definitely taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload and wonder why the American government and news agencies are trying to hide what they hide. Shall we? So I've been on this kick the last couple of days, checking out news coverage and the news misconstruing the public or misleading the public, to make us believe that something else is responsible for these vicious attacks. Just recently, we've had the 70-something-year-old school teacher, which brought a lot of light to this matter. But this has been going on for years, and today I wanted to share with you an older one that I found. It's still unsolved, and it's out of Kentucky. I believe it's pronounced Waddy, Kentucky. And it's from December of 2012. Mysterious animal attacks leaves residents concerned. Something is viciously attacking livestock in Shelby County. Shelby County authorities say dogs are responsible for the attacks on livestock. Answers possible in Shelby County animal attacks. A meeting was held Monday night to discuss the attacks. The animals were penned up in backyards of homes. The attacks have people who live there concerned, not only for the safety of their animals, but for their own. It didn't seem to mind coming up and getting whatever it wants, said Kevin Cox, whose animals were attacked. It's a mystery making its way along Ditto Road, leaving its mark on many of the animals around. On November 29th, Cox bulls became its first victims. Went out the next morning and fed the calves and noticed one of the Holstein bulls had blood on it, said Cox. Something had shredded the ears on 3 of Cox's bulls, and just 1 week later it's believed that something struck the area again. I came out and it had gotten my goat. It tore the ear off the goat, messed her other ear up and her mouth, said Cox. Then, not long after, there was another attack off the same stretch of road. They were torn to pieces, says Teresa Parker, whose animals were attacked. Something attacked all 5 of Parker's pet goats so badly she had to put them all down. Their faces were gone from their eyes down. Their ears had been ripped off, states Parker. The incidents are just a couple of a half dozen reported by people who say they have heard something, been chased by something, or seen evidence that something has viciously struck. Concerns about all of it brought more than 100 community members out to the community meeting Monday night. No one knows exactly what it is, but investigators told the crowd they have a pretty good idea. Pretty much everybody's on the same page that it's going to be a domestic dog or dogs, said Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Sergeant Doug Detheredge. Detheredge said that's because of its tracks and the fact that it actually hasn't killed any of its prey. Neighbors said they just want it found. There's no question in my mind this animal needs to be put down, said Parker. Once an animal gets a taste for blood, they don't stop. If it is determined the attacker is someone's dog, the owner could be criminally charged. Investigators said the attack hasn't happened in about a week and a half. Alright, my breakdown on why I feel it's a Dogman. We're going to start from beginning to end of the news article. The first statement made by one of the victim's owners, Kevin Cox, it didn't seem to mind coming up and getting whatever it wants. Fearlessness. Okay, yes, a lot of people will say, well, a domesticated dog could do that. Okay. Their first attack was a Holstein bull. A lot of you guys have listened to some of my encounters and know that I have family members who owned farms, large farms, dairy farms, and I've been around bulls, and I honestly do not trust a bull. I don't care how docile it seems, because they are very, very aggressive animals. My cousin's farm, who he has passed, a lot of you guys know that one upload, my belief of the reason why I'm sick and a few of my family members have died suddenly and early, know about the farm that I'm talking about. They had a large bull, and he had 2 blue tick hound dogs and 1 pit bull. All 3 of them were great dogs around humans. They were superior guard dogs to that farm. There had been some break-ins that had happened, and probably the best dog, the best blue tick, it was a brindled blue tick. His name was Bandit. And the dogs got in skirmishes, and that blue tick gave that pit bull a run for its money, and would take it down. So Bandit, in my eyes, was one badass dog. My great uncle was mowing the field, and in my area of town, or area of New York, a lot of the farmers do things still the old way, and what he would do is he'd take a piece of chain link fence with the pipe, 4 pipes centered with chain link, so it was a chain link square, and drag that behind a John Deere tractor, and that would mow down the field. So just to keep it groomed, for the cows to walk around, something happened. He had to get off the tractor, and randomly the bull viciously attacked my great uncle, hospitalized him. So Bandit was aware that this was happening and went out and tried to protect my great uncle along with the other 2 dogs, and Buster and Smokey, Smokey got trampled and was killed, and Bandit and Buster were both severely injured. They didn't hold a chance in hell against a bull, a rampaging bull. So a domesticated dog, that's out of the equation for me. Something shredding the ears of the bull. A bull is huge. Yeah, a dog can jump and grab a hold of those ears. I can see that. Okay, but I don't think a dog is going to have a chance to get that close to a bull. Then once again, it went after one of the goats, took its ear off. That's very weird. Then goes to the Parker farm and attacks all 5 of her goats. Actually, from the eyes down, their whole face is gone, and their ears as well. It's just strange to me, it's this thing's going for the top of their heads and down. Another cool, interesting thing is when they say half a dozen reported by people who say they've heard something, been chased by something, or seen evidence that something has viciously struck. Notice in all of the articles that I've read, there is not one interview about what these people have been chased by. Or there is, and there has been, and it's never been reported. It's never been put up. The dog's death ridge says their dog tracks. Necessarily doesn't say how large they are. Usually that is mentioned to give a perspective on how big the dog may be. And then, ironically enough, as fast as it happened, it ended. And there has been no attack and no conclusion to the story. Today's second news coverage comes to us from Maine. Once again, another little girl was attacked. This happened May 6th of 2019. A family in Maine was attacked by a loose, dog-like animal. Police in Lisbon, Maine, say a dog-like animal leapt out of the woods and attacked a family while walking their St. Bernard on a popular trail. The incident was reported to the police around 8:30 p.m. Saturday, about 2.5 hours after the family of 3 showed up with bite wounds at a local hospital. Lewiston Police Chief Mark Hagan says the family, a man, a woman, and an 11-year-old girl, were walking on the Paper Mill Trail somewhere south of Big Dipper Ice Cream Shop when a dog or a coyote-like creature came out of the woods and bit the young girl in the leg. The woman tried to remove the dog creature, which then bit her in the hand, biting through a finger bone and taking the end of her finger off. The man then intervened and received minor injuries to his hand before the animal left. The St. Bernard was not hurt. We're either thinking that it's a dog or a large coyote, said Hagan, who was urging anyone walking on the trail to be on the lookout for an animal at large. The police chief is having officers patrol the area, a popular place for dog walkers, joggers, and pedestrians as much as possible, without detracting from other pressing safety concerns. Danielle Shorey was walking with her 2 young boys along the Paper Mill Trail Monday morning despite hearing the report about the attack. I feel like people are still going to come out. It's a nice walking path, she says, adding that she wasn't planning on lingering too long. It was just a quick walk. We're not really planning on being out here for a long period of time after hearing that story, she explains. Lisbon police say they are particularly interested if the animal may reappear at dusk, since that's when the initial attack happened Saturday. Police went to the trail with a state game warden at the time on Sunday. So far, there have been no further incidences or sightings, and Hagan is calling it even unusual. I've been here 2.5 years, he states. This is the first time something like this has happened. Police are not sure if the animal had attacked the family was rabid. Their investigation is ongoing. Anyone with any information about what happened is asked to give them a call. My quick breakdown on this one. Maine is a second home to me. My family owns a house in Maine. I have a lot of family members that live in the northeastern part of Maine. Bal Harbor, Mount Desert Island. I have lots of friends that live in Maine. I've been to Lewiston. It's the second largest city in Maine. Also, there's a famous Dogman encounter that happened in Palmyra, Maine, which is only an hour from Lewiston. Lewiston is not a forested area like people would think Maine is. Lewiston has its fair share of forested area, walking paths, stuff like that. Nothing to where you're going to see a wolf or a coyote. So that's a very interesting thing. Also, the incident happened once. It happened once, and it hasn't happened since. The creature or creatures, because there may have been more in the back, never struck again. Thankfully enough, the family was alive. What's interesting to me is the Saint Bernard. Now, Saint Bernards are a huge dog. They're very loyal. They're very protective. I'm wondering why the Saint Bernard didn't intervene, unless the Saint Bernard was afraid. Normally, dogs will protect their owners. I had an Akita when I was younger, and I was walking her, and a chow it was a vicious little chow. Not little, but it was fairly good sized. Came running at me, and it was trying to bite me. And my dog Jojo, literally, if I didn't have a harness on her, would have ripped the dog to shreds, because she was trying to protect me. And so that doesn't make sense to me. A Saint Bernard, they're loyal, they're protectors. That's what makes them such a good dog, you know? That's just, that is very strange to me. So I'm thinking that it was straight up Dogman, because also the family members are never interviewed to give a description of the animal. It's brief. All the interviews or the news coverage are brief. Brief. And statements taken from random people who didn't see the animal. Like this Danielle Shorey. She has no precedence to the story. She's just walking on a path. She didn't see it. She doesn't know anything. The family knows something. They're not talking. The Lisbon police, or the Lewiston police chief, he runs his mouth, doesn't say much. Makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense. Complete cover-up. Thankfully enough, the family survived. The strangest thing to me is the Saint Bernard didn't get involved. I don't understand that. Because I've seen littler dogs, like beagles, protect their owners. You know, Chihuahuas. The Saint Bernard. Also, if it's just a regular coyote or wild dog sees a Saint Bernard, they're going to actually measure up first. They're not just going to randomly go after a human. Like that, there's that pecking order, that dominance with animals. That makes no sense to me. Think about that. Today's third part of the upload is coming to us from New Jersey. They're encounters. I'm a little torn because it could be a Sasquatch, or it could be a Dogman. But either way, they are interesting, and they are 40-year-old encounter stories. So here we go. Over a period of 2 weeks back in 1977, strange moaning sounds and eerie haunting screams filled the night along Wolf Pit Road in Sussex County. It always started around 2 in the morning and went on until almost dawn. The wailing noises were constant, and they lasted for hours. It sounded like some kind of huge primate making these noises, and it woke me out of my sleep. I had the windows open so I could hear it very well, but I couldn't tell from which direction it was coming. It was a terrible moaning, like something out of a horror movie. And it was so intense, it just seemed to go right through me. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up straight and my eyes water. I called my friends to see if they could hear it at their house, which is about a quarter of a mile away. It went on for such a long period of time, like an hour, said J.D. Grant, a neighbor. It was horrible, just this horrible, blood-curdling wailing sound. I've never heard anything like it before. I've heard coyote, bear, and fox, and it wasn't anything like it. It was this low, guttural sound. It went right through you. Another witness to that night of Big Red Eye serenade was my friend Chris, who recalled. It was around 2:30 in the morning, and I had just gotten home from work. I heard this low moaning noise, kind of a cry. It was hard to tell where it was coming from because there were a lot of wooded areas. It definitely was not a person. Anything that could make screams that loud definitely had to be big. The only evidence left after these occurrences were a few overturned garbage cans. There were no footprints, but that may have been due to the fact the ground was not soft enough. Grant recalls a night back in 1996 when she and a friend were walking along Layton Road when they encountered the creature nearing the side of the road. I knew it wasn't a bear. It was too lean and upright. It was humanoid. It had to have been there the whole time watching our approach. There was no noise, otherwise we would have heard something that big crashing through the underbrush. It was tall and shaggy with red eyes, she said. The eyes were glowing red from the reflecting light, not glowing like LED lights. It just stood there, motionless, arms hanging limply at its sides. It didn't seem to have any bad intentions. It was just creepy. Then, of course, we ran. We didn't look back. I don't care what anybody says. I know what I saw. That is something you don't forget. I definitely did not go back out to that spot anytime soon. After digging through some old newspaper clippings at the library, I found more info on past Bigfoot sightings, such as 2 men encountering a shaggy creature being attacked by 2 dogs in a Hinesville swamp. Also, in 1975, a forest ranger walking along Sussex County Trail encountered a creature about 8 feet tall with big red eyes. A friend of mine tells me that Big Red Eyes is infamous for his run-ins with High Point State Park rangers. He also tells me that is where the name Big Red Eye comes from. I've lived in Sussex County for nearly my whole life and never heard people talk about Bigfoot, but you mention the name Big Red Eye, and you will be surprised how many people have seen him or heard of someone who has. Big Red Eye in the house. I've recently moved to Sussex County less than a year ago. I was surprised to hear such a thing as Big Red Eye, and didn't really believe it. It really didn't bother me at first. I'm originally from Essex County, and the only thing for me to be afraid of is being a victim of a drive-by or being verbally attacked by a mentally challenged neighbor named Gordy. Layout 1. I was on my way home from a dentist and was getting ready to pull into my driveway when I noticed a figure of a tall man about 7 feet, and it seemed very hairy. I didn't pay any attention at first because I thought it was just a deer, but as I got closer, I could see it was something far bigger. But as I quickly saw it, it was gone. Although I didn't see Big Red Eyes, I did hear some kind of howling or growling in the distance, which I guess could have easily been a bear. I know one thing, I'll never go outside when it's dark around here while I'm alone. Big Red Eye hates condos. Not that I'm a big believer in urban legend or folklore, but I must tell you this story because after reading about Big Red Eye in recent issues, I got chills. My wife and I live in Westwood now, but we were formerly from Mahwah. One night, early last summer, we were walking our dog in our condo development, Paddington Square in Mahwah, and heard this guttural sound that scared us so much that we called the police. I've heard just about every animal noise imaginable, and I've got to tell you, this was the strangest thing I'd ever heard. It was not a dog, a bear, but it was big and angry and had red eyes. I estimate it to be roughly 30 yards from us. We were standing by a streetlight on the sidewalk. I told my wife to pick up the dog and go into the street and walk home slowly. I was shaking in my boots as I slowly backed up, keeping my eyes on the brush. We made it home and called the police, not once but twice, to find out what the hell this thing was. They investigated but found nothing. To this day, my wife and I wonder what it was. Big Red Eye chases girl right out of New Jersey. I'm originally from Hamburg, New Jersey, born and bred in Sussex County. I now live in Savannah, Georgia. About 8 years ago, I had a very vivid encounter with Big Red Eye. I was driving along Route 517 and decided to take a shortcut into the scenic lake where I lived. The road was simply referred to as the Dirt Road, though later I found out its official name was Shady Lane. The two very descriptive names suggest that it's a creepy road to drive on. I was halfway to the end of the road when I saw this awkward-looking bear saunter across the road. Naturally, I stopped the car, and the creature stopped as well. He looked at me for a few seconds, probably the longest few seconds of my life, and sort of lumbered off into the thick of the woods. The strange thing was its eyes. They were red. I could see the whites in the corners of them. I was scared shitless and booked it home. That is no lie. Big Red Eye from New Jersey. There's a lot of crazy stuff in Jersey. Drivers, people, Tony Soprano. I'm just kidding. A lot of me wants to, for very simple reasons, go Dogman. But a lot of me wants to lean towards Sasquatch. But then, Amanda's story at the end. Now, when you see a bear or a bear-like creature, what naturally do you think of? Large, snout-like. She states, looking like a bear, an awkward-looking bear, saunter across the road. Well, if it doesn't have a muzzle, you're not going to refer to it as it looked like a bear. I mean, I know I'm not. I don't know about anyone else. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. But when I think of bear, I think of large, furry, muzzled, monstrous thing that can eat me. So, I don't know. I don't know what this Big Red Eye is. Maybe there's two very different things. Maybe there's the Sasquatch that is, being called the Red Eye, Big Red Eye. Maybe there's a Dogman. I know there's Dogman accounts in New Jersey, and there's lots of Sasquatch. New Jersey is a very creepy state. I mean, all of the states along the East Coast, actually all states have their creepiness to them. For some reason, we think of Jersey as being creepy because of the Pine Barrens, the Jersey Devil, a lot of the old colonist folklore. Definitely a couple cool little stories there. I liked those. I really did. Now, I want to apologize for the noise in the background. I'm actually pissed because I wanted to give you guys an upload earlier in the day to enjoy. Normally I record around 10:30, 11 at night. And right now it is 6:40. So I started recording around 5. And of course, it's 20 degrees out, and in my neighborhood there are people yelling, dogs barking, some lady yelling at their child in a stroller. What the hell is she doing with a child in a stroller in 20-degree weather is beyond me. A lot of cars. I could hear a Subaru WRX just because of the Boxster engine. So I apologize for the noise in the background. I also apologize for the uproar I created yesterday with the whole taking the Lord's name in vain. I want to thank everybody for, their belief, their sticking up for me, and those who, just needed to put their point in. We're a community, we're a family. And that yesterday, and reading all of the comments, made me think of how actually tight of a community we are here. Because there were a lot of you guys who were just, bam, ready to go to town for me. It was like the Warriors back in the 1980s, that movie. And then there were you guys that were like coming out of the church with your holy water, which I appreciate. I mean, I just thought it was cool because we're all different, but we're all here for one thing: Dogman and Cryptid encounters. And we're a family, and families argue, and families bicker. And that just means we're actually a strong community here. There were no verbal insults. There was just my view, your view, their view, views, which was cool. And I appreciate that, And I'm going to work on it. But if I slip up, I slip up. And I'm not going to apologize again. I know how you guys feel, and I feel the same way. Words are words. It doesn't mean I'm disrespectful. I love everything. I love you guys. I love me. I love my kids. I love everything. And I just, it's a word. So I just thought it was cool to read all of the comments because, wow, and it did show how tight we are, because there was lots of people on different points, but there was no insults, which was awesome. Because it goes to show that there's mutual respect for all of us here. And that's what I like to see. So I want to bid you guys farewell. And I want to thank everybody for all of your support. No matter if you, agree with me or don't agree with me. We're all here for one thing. And that's some kick-ass cryptid encounters. Maybe one day I can figure out a way this summer coming to do like a campfire encounter reading. Won't anyone take that? Because I just copyrighted that. So any other channels listening to that, if you guys do it before I do, you guys are copyright infringing. Just kidding. Anyway, that's a good idea. Anyway. Have a great night, guys. Thanks a lot.